Guys, so we got to get to this story when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. As you know, there's an article that Deshaun Watson may have a legitimate shot at stealing the QB1 over Shedeur Sanders due to the fact that Todd Monken is implementing some things that Deshaun Watson is very familiar with, and a lot of people are saying he's doing that strictly for Deshaun Watson. So we got to take a deep dive into this. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. That'd be greatly appreciated as always. Let's get right into things. This is courtesy of heavy.com, where it says Deshaun Watson takes a big step towards stealing Shedeur Sanders' QB1 role. Okay, Cleveland Browns fans may be loath to hear it, but quarterback Deshaun Watson is making progress within the building to return to his former status of QB1 following a year and a half of being sidelined with a twice torn Achilles. Okay. Jeremy Fowler spoke about the situation on SportsCenter, citing Watson's relationship with new head coach Todd Monken, as well as the quarterback's fit in the new system Monken is bringing over from his time as offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens over the past 3 seasons. And he was quoted as saying, "I'm told he's hit it off with Todd Monken, who's got an offensive concept, some elements that Watson has run in the past and been best at. A little bit of a departure from what they were running with Kevin Stefanski." Okay. Here it says Fowler went on to discuss the possibility of Cleveland salvaging a catastrophic trade for Watson 4 years ago, which sent 3 first-round picks and 3 mid-round picks to the Houston Texans for the 3-time Pro Bowl quarterback. Here it says, talking to people around the league, they believe that Watson could eventually earn this job because he's a veteran presence. If he can get back to 70 or 80% of what he was from the Houston days, maybe they can sort of salvage this trade, get one productive year out of him. All of this, man, I don't really believe that Deshaun Watson is a legitimate option as a QB1. I just don't get, you got no future with him. What's the point? What's the point? You know what I mean? I don't really see it. And I think that this is Shedeur Sanders' job. I don't really think there's any much more to it now. Tony Grossi, he got flamed. Jarvis Landry kind of cooked them up. And the whole, Jarvis Landry been cooking up a lot of people, that was, Kevin Stefanski lovers and things like that. And Tony Grossi went on to respond to some of that stuff along with Chops. Let's take a listen, man.
Of their stint in Cleveland than they do at any other team.
Tony, what do you make of that? The whole block out the noise, all that kind of stuff for the, obviously, look, the QB competition's underway. We have OTAs next week, but it's 2026. Is it you can only Shedeur's been on social media forever. He's never that's not even a diss. It's part of who he is. It's I don't even think he would want to block out any noise, right?
No, he stirs up the noise. He's a social media influencer, and influencers don't block out the noise. Now maybe it is Jarvis telling him, hey, if you want to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, you can't do that. Maybe that's his message. I wish these ex-athletes, when they deliver these messages, they're not clear all the time. They're ambiguous. Just tell us what you mean. Why are you telling the quarterbacks, where's the noise coming from? I don't hear any noise right now, other than people are saying, Deshaun looks like he's slightly ahead at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it's kind of blaming the Cleveland media for stirring up noise when, that's not really the case. Let's be honest. It just isn't. But you guys, you're just doing your job,
Well, it's our job to ask the coach questions about, when are you going to select your quarterback? When are you going to know? How are you going to go about it? If you can't block that out as a competitor for the quarterback position, you have no chance of winning the job. So that's why I think he's kind of talking to Shedeur with those comments.
Interesting. Tony, another thing I wanted to bring up kind of with that before we get to this roster stuff, FanDuel Sportsbook put out their odds actually on who's going to be the week 1 starter. They did this actually for
FanDuel, quit stirring it up. FanDuel, quit doing that. That's Jarvis's message.
They did it for every quarterback battle, I guess, or team that's questionable. out there. But Tony, they have the odds for the Browns starting quarterback week 1. Let me read these to you and get your reaction. I would love to know what you think. I don't think you're going to be surprised by them because it's basically what you've been saying. But Deshaun Watson is the favorite at minus 174. Shedeur Sanders is plus 136. Dylan Gabriel plus 5,500. Pretty long shot there for Dylan. And then Taylor Green not listed. Does any of that surprise you, kind of how those odds are?
Not really. Why? No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's the way I would probably place the odds with Gabriel a distant third. And again, we'll see May 20th next week, Wednesday, yep. I think it is, yep. Which will be the second team OTA, but the first one allowed by the media. We'll see what's changed since the voluntary minicamp.
Yeah, definitely. We will. All right, Tony, going to put your feet to the fire. Very early Browns 53 roster type of projection, kind of. I'm going to go through the room. I'm going to give you who's on the roster. So obviously this is going to change. There's injuries. They add guys still, all that. But just kind of want to get your thoughts about it because in your Hey Tony column, people are asking you, hey, the wide receiver room, who could be on the bubble? The quarterback room, who's going to be kind of out there? So just to get your thoughts on these positions. So, Tony, let's start with the QB room. There's 4 guys there now with Taylor Green added. Andrew Berry has basically said he wants to carry 3 into the season. In your Hey Tony column, someone was like, hey, when's Dylan getting out of here? And you said, what did you say, Tony?
I said, let's play it out. You may be surprised at the outcome, or the outcome may surprise you. And I could be surprised by the outcome. Yeah. I've said before, I think Watson and Taylor Green are locks for the final 53, barring injury. Okay, so that leaves one spot open between Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. Yeah. And, you would think Shedeur has a huge edge just based on FanDuel's odds and what we just talked about. Yeah. But things don't always go according to Hoyle when it comes to Browns competition. So I won't make that cut for the Browns. They have to make it. So let's just see how it plays out. But odds are that Gabriel would be the odd man out.
But you're firm on it's going to be 3. Like the number's going to be 3. You believe that, right?
I think there is a very, very, very small chance it could be 4 to start the year, which is the same thing I said last year. And why didn't it happen? Because they traded Pickett. They had an opportunity to trade Pickett. Yeah. I think it's possible to carry 4 quarterbacks for maybe a month into the season and wait to see the lay of the land if a quarterback goes down elsewhere. And the only way you would do that, I think, if you're Andrew Berry, is Gabriel and Sanders look good in training camp and preseason. And you can't trade one of them. Efforts to trade them fail. So rather than cut one and try to sneak one onto the practice squad, you might carry both of them and all 4 and just see the first month if there's an injury somewhere that makes them marketable.
Yeah, interesting. Tony, real quick, what's crazy? I went back and I was looking through QB trackers and everything just from last year. How insane was last year's quarterback competition that Joe Flacco on the first day of training camp took no team reps in the practice? Like, thinking back on that, what was Kevin thinking?
Well, that's what got everyone saying it's going to be Pickett. It's going to be Pickett. Yeah. They want Pickett to win the job. They want Pickett. At the time we justified it by saying, hey, Joe's in his 18th year. You could ease him in. It's child's play for a veteran of that stature to go through those first weeks of training camp. Yeah. That's the way I justified it at the time. But you're right. He ends up being the guy who starts, the only one of the 4 who didn't suffer an injury in training camp and preseason. There was no rhyme or reason to the way the thing was handled last year.
Yeah, looking back on it, and Tony, Monken has made pretty clear he is not doing that same thing going forward in this. At least that's what he's saying. So,
well, that was before they drafted a 4th quarterback. So let's see how this plays out.
Well, Tony, I would think like there's no way that, like, say Deshaun goes into training camp as the QB1 and that's how they're looking, or even Shedeur, that person would get first or team reps on the first day of training camp is what I'm saying. You know,
it's totally different. There's